Main Class Assistant online module, and congratulations on your role as Main Class Assistant at your Kumon Center. In this module, we will cover the following topics: the image of students studying in the main classroom that we strive for, your role as a main classroom assistant and how you support this image. To confirm your understanding of the content, a knowledge check activity will be included at the end. Tap on the button to begin. First, let's get an understanding for the image we strive for in the main classroom. At Kumon, the main classroom should be an organized learning environment where students can complete their Kumon study as independently as possible. And they should be able to feel a sense of achievement each day. They should leave the center just a little smarter than when they walked in. Let's watch 2 videos of students in the main classroom to understand the image of what this looks like. The first video gives an overview of students studying in the main classroom. The second video focuses on one student. How would you describe the student in the second video? Click all that apply. That's right. The student in the video was able to complete their work with focus, engagement, confidence, and independence. Based on their body language, we can say they could feel a sense of achievement. There may be many students in the classroom at one time, all studying different levels of materials, and all with their unique personalities and abilities. Tap on the button to continue. As a main classroom assistant, an important part of your role is to get to know the students. This does not mean having long conversations with them. Rather, you should get to know the names of the students and have a general sense of what they are working on and what type of help they might need. Each student in the main classroom will have their own academic skills, pace, and concentration. By learning about the students' skills and personalities, you can better support their learning. Let's take a look at some practical ways that you can get to know the students. First of all, you can use the information available to you. Their names will usually appear on their Kumon pouches. Students' name, age, and grade often appear on their study records. This could include the front cover of the student folder and the record book if there is one. Your center might use other ways to record student information, so make sure to speak to your instructor about this. Knowing a student's details is a great start to getting to know them. By observing the student complete their worksheets, you learn a great deal about their motivation, study attitude, and confidence. In addition, by speaking with your instructor before or after class about a student, you will be able to find out more about the student's personality, current skills, and goals. Your instructor will likely share their expectations on how and when to share your observations and ask questions about individual students. For students to get the most out of coming to the center each day, they will need to complete their work well. Each center will have an expected routine and flow in the main classroom. Your role will include supporting students to follow those. We can put the 2 skills that students need to be able to complete their worksheet smoothly into 2 categories: work skills and proper study approach. Work skills are defined as the ability to concentrate on the number of assigned worksheets and complete them without stopping. Proper study approach is when students read everything in the worksheets carefully before writing answers, write neatly and carefully, and only erase what is necessary when making corrections. Let's look at each of these in a bit more detail and think about how you can support developing these skills. Supporting student work skills development in the main classroom means helping them to complete their worksheets without stopping. To help develop a sense of intensity and speed, students very often have time goals set by the instructor. If this is the case with your student, you can ask them what their goal is to put it at the top of their minds. If they don't have a time goal, speak to your instructor to consider what is appropriate for them. A time goal should be achievable, but a little challenging. While the student is studying, we want to support them to keep a quick pace with their pencils and page turning. If we see a student moving at a slow pace or losing focus, we might want to identify why. If it is because they lack concentration, one way to support them is to show them the pace through pen pacing. Let's watch a quick video of what pen pacing looks like. Here you can see that the assistant paces the student by moving their pen to the next problem, just as the student is finishing with the previous problem. The pace set should be challenging but not too fast, as to demotivate the student. Another technique to help with pace and concentration is to give the student smaller goals. For example, if you know a student has difficulty focusing on their worksheets for more than one page, you could ask them to complete 2 pages without stopping on Tuesday, and then ask them to complete 3 pages without stopping on Thursday. This can help increase their stamina and give them a sense of achievement. After studying, you will want to follow up on any time goals set for them. If they achieve the goal, praise them. If they have not, praise their efforts and give them a hint on how they might be able to get it next time. Before studying, students who have proper study approach preview their work to think about what they are about to work on. If a student forgets, you can remind them and even model for them by pointing out examples or interesting pages. Additionally, even in the main classroom, students forget to write their start and finish time on their paper worksheets. Please remind the students that forget. During studying, students should read the section title, directions, passage, examples, questions, and answers. This helps the students to complete their work independently and develops their self-learning skills. Your role is to encourage them to take these steps before asking or raising their hands. In addition, reading students will need to complete the oral reading pages from the worksheet levels 2A to C2. Make sure to speak with your instructor about the expectation for a student's oral reading and what sort of guidance to provide. This is reading worksheet C171A. Students are asked to read aloud and time themselves. Many centers have stopwatches available for students to use. Some students may need support timing their oral reading, or others will be able to do it independently. Guide them as necessary. Let's watch a quick video of a main classroom assistant giving some support.
You're going to read this to me, okay, out loud so I can hear you, okay? Go ahead.
We're familiar with looking up to see a blue sky or twinkling stars. Maybe we see some clouds or even an airplane. Imagine, however, what you would see if you looked up after you had hiked deep into a forest. You would likely to see a lot of green. The overhanging branches of the trees might look from below almost like a green roof overhead with beams of sunlight shining through.
Good. Okay, let me just circle this one.
This one?
No, this one. Okay. Now you want to answer the...
While the student was able to read on their own, the assistant reminded them of what to do and how to record their oral reading time. Even in the main classroom, students may forget to write times. As mentioned, please remind your paper students to write their completion times if they forget. For all students, paper and tablet, you will want to ensure they are completing their corrections and have 100% on their classwork before they leave the center. When completing their corrections, they should only erase the wrong part of the answer rather than the whole answer. This helps them understand the mistake and lessens the chance they will continue making the same sort of error. Since one of the goals of Kumon is for students to self-learn, guiding students to learn from the worksheets is a major part of your role. Worksheets are designed so students can solve the problems on their own, but students are not necessarily able to do it from the beginning and may need your support. As we mentioned, we want our students to be as independent as possible, so if students are able to study their worksheets well and on their own, we should let them. However, if students raise their hands or have questions, it may be necessary to provide them with assistance. Let's take a look at some math worksheets to see how to guide students to learn from the worksheets. In math worksheets, the design of introductory parts is different by worksheet level. In levels B, C, and D 1 to 150, students mainly study calculation of integers, and new concepts are introduced with hints such as tracing, side notes, and boxes. From D 151, students mainly study calculations of fractions, and new concepts are introduced by examples. Let's confirm how you would guide your students using these hints. First, let's think about the way to guide students in levels B through D 150. How would you guide students if they ask you a question on problem 2? Pause and read each example provided. Tap the next button when you are ready to continue. If you explain the calculation procedure verbally like this, students would get confused and their self-learning attitude cannot be developed. You should encourage your students to think how the answer for question 1 is derived. Next, let's think about the way to guide students on D151. As mentioned, new concepts are introduced by examples. How would you guide students if they ask you a question on problem 1? You should encourage students to refer to the example and think about how the answer is derived. You can learn the various instruction notes for each new concept by watching the online modules for math worksheets. Now, let's take a look at this sample reading worksheet. On reading page A1 to A, there are again several features of the worksheets that can be used when students are having trouble. What if a student asks for help on number 3? Do you notice anything that you could use to support a student? What are the steps you could take to support them and show them how to solve the worksheets on their own? On this reading worksheet example, we could ask them to read the directions carefully. This may mean having them read the directions aloud in front of you. Have them read through each component of the example, including the guided questions and the definition. Ensure that they trace the example answer. You may need to point out the hints on the worksheets. In this example, there are several, from tracing the word "the" in the first question to the guide questions. You could model for them by asking, "Who hides?" Then you could have the student try to answer the question on their own. Make sure to stay around to observe them as they try so you can either give praise or provide additional guidance. The reading worksheets may also include pictures that could help the student solve the worksheet. If available, you could have the student pay close attention to the picture before completing the exercise to help them understand how to proceed. When students work to achieve goals and put in effort to work independently, it is important that we praise them. Making sure that the praise is given as soon as possible after they have accomplished or tried something will give them immediate feedback. The more specific our praise to them is, the better. If a student reads the directions without being told to do so, you could say, "Great job remembering to read the directions today. That will let them know the exact sort of thing they should continue to do. Talking with your instructor is crucial in your role. Make sure to keep them aware of your observations and highlight any student achievements as well as any concerns. By doing this, your instructor can give you tips to ensure that you are giving the right guidance at the right time to a student. By sharing what you observe with your instructor, you help them to create a more effective lesson plan for the students. Your role as a main classroom assistant is a very important one. Your ability to guide students by getting to know them, coaching them to complete their work well, and developing their ability to learn from the worksheets is critical to helping them become independent self-learners. By partnering with your instructor to support students in the main classroom, you also contribute to the instructor's vision for the center and play a big part in the positive experience the students have at Kumon. Seeing students develop into self-learners will be a rewarding achievement. It's time for the knowledge check. Let's get started. What are the main parts of your role? Select all that apply. That's right. If a student in the main classroom forgets to write their ending time on their worksheets, what actions should you take? That's right. You should to get to know blank students, you can blank. Select the response to fill in the blanks. That's right. True or false. If a student loses concentration in the main classroom, you should take no action as they need to do the work on their own. That's right. Which of the following actions could you take if a student raises their hand for help? That's right. You can take all of these actions if click the correct way to give support to a main classroom student who asks a question about problem number 1. That's right. Click on the appropriate way to give support to a reading student who raises their hand for question number 3. That's right. Please use the feature. Nice job, you passed. Tap on the Go to the End button. Please click on the button